So we did the samurai movie plot in Trek to Yomi, in which the protagonist watches their mentor get killed as a child and then trains for years before going flip-out spanky-wanky all over the baddies responsible and eventually concluding that revenge isn't really worth it. Now let's turn to Sifu and explore instead the martial arts movie plot, in which the protagonist watches their mentor get killed as a child and then trains for years before going flip-out spanky-wanky all over the baddies responsible and eventually concluding that revenge isn't really worth it, while not wearing a pointy hat, and sometimes even manages to get through the whole process inside a century. Shenmue. Sifu is a third-person brawler that came out a while back, but holy Jesus human centipede in Christ, a new release is dead right now. They're so fucking dead, they're planning to start their comeback tour in Sarajevo. It's not usually this bad this time of year. I think Elden Ring might have frightened everything off. It's like how it's easy to lose confidence in your stand-up set if the opening act was a gigantic golden dancing rhinoceros that spunked diamonds at ballistic velocity and killed 11 audience members. But anyway, I'd been getting requests for Sifu and finally had the chance to play through it last week, and I'd have to say it is an interesting game. You play a young martial artist who has a child watch their mentor get killed and who then trains for years before going flip-out spanky. Oh, hang on, that's not very interesting at all. Okay, so it's a game where you go through a sequence of levels based on urban settings where every single person you meet, from junkies to janitors to businessmen to substitute maths teachers, is trained to the exact same standard in one highly specific martial art, except for the fat ones who all learned grappling techniques from handling their enormous sandwiches. Oh wait, that's not very interesting either. That's just the bog standard retro arcade brawler template. It even ends each level with a colourful boss and litters the environment with disposable melee weapons because apparently the only things people throw away in this world are beer bottles, broom handles and filleting knives. I guess it's pretty interesting that it's being done in 3D over-the-shoulder style, although it does on one or two occasions switch to a 2D side-on camera when it starts to fret that the reference might be going over people's heads. The first interesting bit is the gameplay mechanic wherein every time your character dies from getting kung fu too much, which will happen frequently, because the basic combat also borrows from the retro arcade gaming tradition of being designed to remove coins from the pockets of unsupervised schoolchildren with all the fervour of the CIA removing democracy from an easily bullied, oil-rich South American country, then they immediately come back to life but age an entire year. So you start out as a fresh-faced Disney prince in his school jogging trousers, and death by death watch his beard grow and his muscles fill out until by the end he's about 46 and looks like an overgrown ornamental rock garden. It's an interesting storytelling concept, really drives home the main character's obsession if he's willing to waste an entire puberty bringing down one troublesome boss fight, but in practical terms it's not much more than a classic live system with a hard limit. There's a couple of associated gimmicks. As you age, your health goes down but your damage goes up, but otherwise you might as well put it out of your mind. I mean, on my first attempt I was stressing out, restarting the first level over and over again when I was dying too many times, because much the same reason I gave up binge drinking, I didn't want to waste my 20s. But eventually I learned to relax and go with the flow of being killed. Because it's not a long game and 40-50 odd lives is more than enough, frankly, and at points you can even spend XP on rolling your age back a few years if it bothers you that much, although that kind of defeats the message as I interpreted it. Ooh, don't waste your precious years on revenge, because you'll never get them back. Now, would you like to spend some Sifu fun bucks on getting a bunch of your years back? But it is a game where you are expected to die a certain amount. Combat's bloody hard to get to grips with. It starts with your standard light attack, heavy attack, dodge, block, parry arrangement, then puts the whole thing in fast forward and makes everyone get right up in each other's elasticated waistbands. And the trouble with the over-the-shoulder perspective is that your attacks all have about half as much range as you think they do. Buy the snap kick as soon as you can, because that's about the best way to close distance, and otherwise your little T-Rex arms will spend a lot of time whirling through empty air, ruffling everyone's ties and pocket squares. Also, you're supposed to press up or down while holding block to weave around certain low and high attacks, but I just hold block and randomly wiggle the stick about like an unruly clitoris, and that'd have maybe a 60% success rate. I guess I like the combat because it does feel satisfying to take apart a room full of thugs like they're a mess of tangled Christmas lights, and in the end that is the whole point, to let us feel like the dude in the martial arts movie going full flip out spanky wanky on a room full of fools. Sorry, can we take a moment to appreciate that I only invented the phrase flip out spanky wanky 2 minutes ago, and yet its meaning was already perfectly clear, demonstrates real articulacy, I think. If I have a complaint for the combat system, I'd say some kind of lock-on would be nice, so when surrounded, my dude doesn't just randomly pick who he's going to start windmilling at based on who's got the least appealing facial hair or something. I suppose when you boil it down, Sifu isn't much more than a level-based brawler with a couple of gimmicks and a focus on achieving mastery through repetition. The story's not a huge draw, because most of the voice performance is going for serious, unflappable stoic, but comes across more like trying to escape a dull conversation on the bus, but it also has a visual stylishness that I think elevates it a bit. The environments have an appealing look and attention to detail that reminds me of Hitman, at least until you've turned them into impromptu bowling alleys with thugs for pins and box ottomans for balls. There was one last disappointment in store, and that's that there was a bad ending and a good ending, where to get the good ending you have to do the boss fights in an extra hard way that goes against what the game's been teaching you the whole time. You're supposed to duff them up until the icon comes up that says press X to split me open like a naughty coin purse, and then not do that. Well, geez, pardon me for being prompt. Of course you get the bad ending for killing bosses and the good ending for sparing them, because revenge is not the answer, blah-de-blah, change the fucking record. Why do we always get so selectively judgy about killing people? As I said to the arresting officer,